So Jiva Goswami is quoting that, their opinion.
Okay, now understood.
It's a Purva Paksha. And then he said, this is how the Advaitavadis interpret Krishna's reply to Arjuna. Bhavadeepa is a name of the commentary written by Nilakanta on the Bhagavad Gita. So Nilakanta is the follower of the Advaitavada school. Jiva Goswami is in the purport that Purva Paksha commentary is quoted. And then it says that this is how the Advaitavadis interpret Krishna's reply to Arjuna. Krishna clearly says in the 12.2, Arjuna asks in the 12th chapter that who is better? Evam satata ye bhaktastvam paryupasate ye chapyaksharam avyuktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Who is the best among the yogi? The person who meditates on the impersonal Brahman or the who serves your personal form? And Krishna gives a very clear answer. Maya, that 12.2, that
Maya
Krishna
Vesha Manoyema
Maya
Nityayukta Upasate
Veshya Manoye Mam Nityayukta Upasate
Shraddhaya.
Shraddhaya Parayopetas Teme Yukta Tamamata. Krishna says that those who worship my personal form, they are the most intimately connected to me. He gives a very clear, straightforward answer. But that straightforward answer is also interpreted by the Advaitavada commentator in a different way, opposite way. That is how Jiva Goswami is quoting that. If the Jiva believes that he is identical to this Ishvara, which certainly is the case for those who aim at Nirguna Brahman realization, how could he be sincerely devoted to him? If a non-devotee actor on stage plays the role of a devotee and another that of God, can the former's show of devotion be considered genuine? Certainly not. An actor can make a portrait of devotion, but that would not benefit him spiritually. So indeed, from the point of view of Bhakti theology, to regard oneself as identical to Ishvara would be tantamount to an offense. So, because Nilakanta writes in his commentary, those who worship me as the supreme Ishvara do so with their minds constantly fixed upon me, being endowed with superior faith, meaning belief in my personal existence. Or in other words, with the conviction that by worshipping Paramātmā, they will certainly be delivered by him. But in reality, it is the jnanis whom I look upon as my very self. As previously stated, Tesham jnani nityayukta ekabhakti rushishyate. Priyo hi jnani natyartham akam sacha mama priya. Yet being omniscient, I take the side even of such fools, the Saguna worshippers, out of compassion for them. And it is in this sense only that I consider them as the best of those who are united with me. So this is the interpretation of them. So we will start the today's class. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Nashtaprayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatiruttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चातिदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्राब्धि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद. So in this particular part of anuccheda, Krishna is quoting 13.1 and 2. 13.1 and 2, and the Jivatma is the individual knower, but the Paramātmā is the knower of all the bodies. So if somebody says that the intention of Krishna in describing the two kshetrajna is ultimately to describe the nirvishesha jnana. That somebody may interpret that Krishna ultimately is talking about the nirvishesha jnana. If somebody says that it will have many contradictions, because the word sarvakshetreshu would be redundant, and then the other words Nyeyam yattat pravakshyami. Nyeya, I shall describe the knowable. Nirvishesha jnana is something which cannot be knowable. So therefore, Nyeyam yattat pravakshyami, that also indicates only the savishesha jnana. Sarvata pani padam tat, that also indicates the savishesha jnana. And also the 13.7 to 12, the 5 shlokas. In that also Krishna clearly mentioned that Mayi Chananya Yogena Bhakti Ravya Bicharini. That also clearly indicates the Savishesha Jnana. Or if somebody says that, so Kshetragyam Chapimam Vidhi, one should understand this Gita shloka just like one interprets the Tattvamasi shloka of the Chandogya Upanishad. Just like the Advaitavadis give interpretation of the Tattvamasi shloka. Then for that also Jiva Goswami gives a counter reply. He says that if Krishna ultimately only talks about the nirvishesha jnana, just like in the Tattvamasi, then Krishna would have spoken as Kshetrajna Ishwarayor Jnana. But he did not mention that. He says that Kshetrajnayor Jnana. This is the second Purva Paksha argument and the counter reply. And then Jiva Goswami says that when Krishna is saying Kshetrajnayor Jnanam Yatad Jnanam Matam Mama, the meaning of the statement is that the knowledge of the Kshetra and the two types of Kshetrajna is nothing but knowledge about me only. It's nothing but the knowledge about me only. So Jiva Goswami is giving another meaning of the shloka. Generally, the meaning of this statement is that, in my opinion, knowledge means Kshetra and the two types of Kshetrajna. But Jiva Goswami is giving another meaning of the same shloka, where Krishna says that the knowledge of the Kshetra and the two types of Kshetrajna is actually considered to be the knowledge of me alone. Mama Jnanam Matam. So that Mama Jnanam Matam. So this is also this also agrees with the Brahma Sutra. Anyartascha Paramarshaha. The deliberation on the individual Atma is in order to know the Paramātmā. So therefore, in keeping with the fact that the knowable is stated to be only one, Nyayam Yattat Pravakshyami, there also only Ekavachana is used. So the knowledge of the Jivatma and the Kshetra is ultimately to know the Paramātmā. So therefore, ultimately the knowledge of Kshetra and two types of Kshetrajna is nothing but knowledge of me alone. So I will read that portion of the commentary purport where that Brahma Sutra is explained. So that is in the Chandogya Upanishad. So to support this argumentation, Jiva Goswami refers to a sutra from the Daharadhikarana of the Brahma Sutra. So Brahma Sutras, Vedanta Sutras are divided into, there are 4 chapters with each chapter has 4 adhyaya. Each chapter has 4 adhyaya. Each chapter has 4 pada. And then a group of sutras are called as adhikarana. A group of sutras on a particular topic, they are called as adhikarana. So one of the adhikarana is called as Daharadhikarana. So from the Daharadhikarana, Jiva Goswami refers to a sutra, 1.3.20 from the Daharadhikarana of the Brahma Sutra. So the Upanishad states that there is a tiny Dahara, means a lotus-like space, Akasha, in the city of Brahman. City of Brahman means in the body. That one should seek out and inquire into that which dwells in that place. What then is this space? It could mean that space, it could mean the element ether. It can mean the element ether, or it can mean the individual Jivatma, or it can mean the Paramātmā, Brahman or Vishnu. So the first part of the Daharadhikarana, that is 1.3.14 to 17, Vedanta Sutra, establishes that this sky, a word that is also used to indicate Brahman, Akasha is also sometimes used to indicate Brahman, it cannot be the material element ether. The first part of the Daharadhikarana says that here the word Akasha cannot refer to the material element ether. And then the next portion of the Daharadhikarana raises the possibility that the Dahara is a reference to the individual Atma, as indicated further in the Chandogya Upanishad 8.3.4. It raises the possibility that Dahara can refer to the individual Atma. After raising that possibility, it refutes the proposition by saying, it refutes the proposition by saying that itara paramarshat sa iti chen nasambhavat. If it is argued that because there is a reference to the other, namely the Jiva, in the Dahara section, and that therefore Akasha means the Jiva, that is denied as impossible. So in the section of the Chandogya Upanishad to which this sutra refers, the word Prajapati refers to the Jiva. And it is pointed out that when the Jiva meditates on Brahman, the eightfold qualities appear in him. What are the eightfold qualities? Apahata Papa, free from sin. Vijara, no old age. Mrityu, no death. Shoka, without lamentation. And then Apipasa, without no hunger. And then Apipasa is no thirst. And then no hunger, whether there is a word is there. And then Satyakama and Satya Sankalpa. So these eightfold qualities appear in him. So these qualities naturally exist in Brahman, not in the Jiva. Thus the word Dahara does not refer to the Jiva but to the Brahman, by meditation on whom the Jiva is endowed with the eightfold qualities. So basically in the Dakharadhikarana, in the first part, it is described that Dakhara cannot refer to the Akasha. And then raises the possibility that can the Dakhara refer to the individual Jivatma? So then that possibility is denied by saying that the section of the Chandogya Upanishad to which the sutra refers, because Vedanta Sutra is basically a summary of the Upanishad Vakyas. So this 1.3.20 Vedanta Sutra, the summary of a certain section of the Chandogya Upanishad. So in that, when we see the original Chandogya Upanishad, it is mentioned that the Prajapati, which refers to Jiva Atma, he meditates on Brahman, and the eightfold qualities appear in him. So therefore, the Dakhara does not refer to the Jivatma but to the Brahman. Then a doubt is raised. Why then is a reference to the Jiva in this section related to the Dakhara? So the question is answered with the Sutra 1.3.20 cited by Sri Jiva Goswami here in Paramātmā Sandarbha. The deliberation on the individual Atma is in order to know the other, Paramātmā. So the purpose of knowing the Jivatma is ultimately to know the Paramātmā. The purpose of knowing the material nature is ultimately to know the Paramātmā, whose energy is Jivatma and the Prakriti. So the meaning here is that the reference to Jivatma is intended to impart knowledge of the Supreme Brahman. It indicates that when a Jiva attains perfection, it also becomes endowed with the same eightfold qualities belonging to the Supreme Reality. The Supreme Reality possesses those qualities eternally, naturally. But when the conditioned Jivatma becomes liberated, he gets those qualities. Apaghata Papma, Vijara, Mrityu, Shoka, Apipasa, Satyakama, Satya Sankalpa, without hunger. In other words, although it appears the Chandogya Upanishad that is describing the Jivatma, but the intention is to explain the nature of the Supreme. Likewise, Jiva Goswami says that although Krishna is describing the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna in the verses stated, but the intention of Krishna is to disclose knowledge about himself. Because the Jnaya, the substantive reality to be known, is expressed in the singular, Ekavachan. Jnayam yattat pravakshyami, 13.12. Yajñātvā mritam ashnute. the Jnaya, the object to be known, is described as singular. That means the purpose of knowing the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna is ultimately to know the knowledge about Krishna. If there were two Jnayas, that is Kshetra and Kshetrajna, Krishna would have used the Dvivachan in the 13.12. Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, that is 13.13. Nyayam yattat pravakshyami, he would have used the Dvivachan. The dual number would have been used. Moreover, since Krishna is the ultimate reality, as Shiva Jiva Goswami has established in the Bhagavad Sandarbha, he is that which is more worthy to be known. So that ultimate reality is only one, non-dual in nature. Advaya Jnanam. Because knowledge of him includes knowledge of everything else. Yasmin Vijnate Sarvameva Vijnatam Bhavati. Mundaka Upanishad says that, O most honorable one, what is that reality by knowing which all this becomes clearly known? So this is the, he's explained this part of the, that Brahma Sutra, why it is called. And then, coming to this part. Now the next point of Jiva Goswami raises is that, Nacha Nirishwara Sankyavat. So up to this point, is there any question?
No, Prabhuji, it's clear now. Yeah.
So you can also go through it. The book I have sent the soft copy to everyone. Anybody not having the soft copy? Anybody has? No? Bal Krishna Prabhu, did I send you?
Okay. Haribol, what do you say?
Did I send you the soft copy of the book?
No, I don't have.
Okay, I will send you today. So now the next point, Jiva Goswami says, Nacha Nirishwara Sankyavat Kshetra Kshetrajna Matra Vibhagat Atra Jnanam Matam. Nirishwara Sankhya. So there are two types of Sankhya philosophy. One is a Nirishwara Sankhya, another is a Seshwara Sankhya. So here Jiva Goswami is taking the Purva Paksha as the Nirishwara Sankhya conclusion. And then he is giving a counter reply for that. Nacha Nirikshara Sankhyavat Kshetra Kshetrajna Matra Vibhagat Atra Jnanam Matam. Mam Ityanena Ishwaras Yapekshitatvat. So nor is it right to interpret the word knowledge as in the Nirishwara Sankhya philosophy. According to Nirishwara Sankhya philosophy, that the realization of the distinction between the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, that is knowledge. According to Nirishwara Sankhya. But then Krishna is very clearly saying that Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Krishna is using the pronoun mam. By that he is necessarily including the supreme knower. So the Krishna is very clearly saying that the knowledge means to know the kshetra and the two types of kshetrajna. And one of the type of kshetrajna is the Ishvara. So the Ishvara is included in the as a knowledge in the by the Krishna. But in Nirishwara Sankhya, they don't include the Ishvara. They only say the knowledge of the difference between the kshetra and the kshetrajna is knowledge. So this part of the purport. one may misconstrue that Krishna's teachings in this section of the Gita speak only of the Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetra refers to the Prakriti and Kshetrajna refers to Purusha. The two ontological categories of the classical Sankhya philosophy of Kapila, the Nirishwara Sankhya. Not the Devahuti Kapila is being referred here, but the Nirishwara Sankhya. And that therefore one may say that Krishna is just confirming the classical Sankhya view. But Jiva Goswami disagrees with this idea because because the Nirishwara Sankhya Kapila does not himself mention Ishvara, the Supreme Person. But in Bhagavad Gita 13.2, Krishna says Mam, which implies a third reality beyond the Kshetra and the individual Kshetrajna. This is also confirmed later in the Bhagavad Gita. Later in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, 15.16, Krishna says that Dvavimau purushau loke sharaschakshara yevacha sharas sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate uttama purushastvanya paramatmetyudaghrataha yolokatrayamavishya bibartyavyaya ishvaraha. There are two kinds of purushas in this world. The perishable, Kshara, and the Akshara, the imperishable. And all the embodied beings are Kshara, perishable. Whereas the immutable self, Kutastha, is the imperishable. But different from these two is the Supreme Purusha called as Paramātmā. Yo lokatrayam avishya bibarti avyayam ishvara. He is the imperishable regulator, Avyaya. And lokatrayam avishya, by entering into the three worlds, bibarti, he is sustaining those three worlds. But the Nirishwara Sankhya, they don't include the Ishvara. But in the Gita, Krishna is clearly mentioning the Ishvara. So therefore, Krishna clearly mentions three divisions of ontological being. The Kshara Purusha refers to the material body. Or the Kshara Purusha refers to the Baddha Jivatma. Akshara Purusha refers to the Mukta Jivatma. And the Uttama Purusha refers to the Supreme Self, the Paramātmā. So these refer to the Kshetra, the body-mind complex of the empirical self. These refer to Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and the Jnaya. These refer to Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and the Jnaya. So respectively of the 13th chapter. So there's a parallel between 15.16 and 17 and the 13th chapter what Krishna says. The 13th chapter Krishna says Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and the Kshetra and the two types of Kshetrajna. The body-mind complex, the Kshetra, the two types of Kshetrajna. Same thing is explained in another words in the 15th chapter, 16 and 17. So if the Advaitavada theory, so now under the next point he says, if the Advaitavada theory that there is only one type of Kshetrajna is admitted, there would be incoherency in Krishna's instruction. One may object that a physical body cannot be called a Purusha. Although this argument is valid, it is not the body in isolation that is called a Purusha. Rather, the body along with the individual self is called the Purusha. If the Advaitvada theory that there is only one type of Kshetrajna is admitted, there would be incoherency in Krishna's instruction, because Krishna is talking about two types of Kshetrajna. One may object that the physical body cannot be called a Purusha. Although this is a valid argument, physical bodies cannot be called a Purusha, but it is not the body in isolation that is called a Purusha. Rather, the body along with the individual self is called the Purusha. Such kind of usage is also seen in the Taittiriya Upanishad, where Taittiriya Upanishad talks about Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha. All these correspond to the presentational field Kshetra. The Vijnanamaya Purusha refers to the individuated knowers, Kshetrajñas. Vijnanamaya Purusha and Anandamaya Purusha. Vijnanamaya Purusha refers to the individuated knowers, Kshetrajñas. And the Anandamaya Purusha is the supreme self who is to be known. So, the Taittiriya Upanishad talks about, previously we had discussed in the Bhagavad Sandarbha, Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha. Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha refers to the Kshetra. And the Vijnanamaya Purusha refers to the Kshetrajñas. And Anandamaya Purusha refers to the Supreme Self, who is to be known. So, coming back again.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhuji, that 13.34, that Brahma Pucham is explained. In that here that Manomaya Kosha, that Jnanamaya Kosha. Is there any difference in that? In that
the Annamaya Kosha, a person has
is
only...
trying to understand the Brahman through the Anna, right? Or
he thinks everything in this world is only nothing but food. A child is in that consciousness. Whatever you give to the child will want to eat. The Pranamaya Purusha, in the Pranamaya stage, a person is also becomes aware of others' needs. But he thinks me first. I should get first. He is also he is not only aware of the food, but he is also aware of the prana, something higher than Anna. And he also becomes aware of others' needs, but he thinks that, but I should get first. In Manomaya Purusha, a person starts thinking. He talks, he develops the qualities like forgiveness, tolerance, doing some social service. He starts thinking, but at least, but more on a bodily platform only. But at least he starts thinking, he starts becoming sensitive to others' feelings. But higher than that, in Vijnanamaya stage, a person understands that I am the Atma different from the body. So, in this particular paragraph, let me once more read it. If the Advaitavada theory that there is only one type of Kshetrajna is admitted, there would be incoherency in Krishna's instruction. So that is very clear. One may object that the physical body cannot be called a Purusha. I'm not exactly clear what is the line of argument. A physical body cannot be called a Purusha. Although this argument is valid, it is not the body in isolation that is called a Purusha. Rather, the body along with the individual self is called the Purusha. Okay. Such usage is also seen in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Body along with the individual self is called the Purusha. the Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha. Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, they refer to the body along with the individual self in lower levels of consciousness. Vijnanamaya Purusha refers to the just individual knower, the Atma, the two Kshetrajnas. And Anandamaya Purusha refers to the Bhagavan, who is the reservoir of all bliss.
Yeah,
Now
thank
the
you,
next,
Prabhu.
now the next point, he is again taking a Purva Paksha opinion of the Vivartavada. Vivartavada is one of the theory of the Mayavad, Advaitavad. Nacha Vivartavadavad Ishwarasyapi. Nacha Vivartavadavad Ishwarasyapi. Vivartavadavad Ishwarasyapi Brahmamatra Pratita Purushatvam Tad Vachana Lakshana Saveda Gitadi Shastranam Apramanyat Bauddhavada Pattehe Tasyam cha Satyam Bauddhanam iva Vivartavadinam Tad Vyakhyana Ayuktehe. So I think I will show the PDF only. Nor can we agree with the Vivartavada doctrine that the personhood of God, according to Vivartavada doctrine, Ishvara is nothing but an appearance born out of illusion. The Nirvishesha Brahman, when it comes in contact with the Sattva Guna, it becomes the Ishvara. That is the Vivartavada doctrine. So we cannot agree with this. Because suppose if we say that the Ishvara is nothing but an appearance born out of illusion, then the words of that Ishvara in the form of the revealed scriptures, such as the Bhagavad Gita, along with the Vedas, would be rendered unauthoritative. All the Vedas and Gita would be unauthoritative because it is spoken by a person who is born out of illusion. Why should we hear from him? Thus, insinuating. What is insinuating? It only confirms the, I think, Buddhist philosophy. Insinuate means introduce to us, insert in a subtle manner. It only, in a subtle manner, it only confirms the Buddhist philosophy. That means everything is shunya. So such being the case, it would be just as illogical for the proponents of Vivartavada to comment on these scriptures as it is for the Buddhists. If the scriptures are spoken by a Ishvara who is born out of illusion, then there is no point in hearing those scriptures. And then even the same Advaitavadis, they are writing commentary on those scriptures, that is also meaningless. As it is for the Buddhists. Tasyam cha satyam bauddhanam iva vivartavadinam tad vyakhyana ayuktehe. They should not have written commentary also. And then further he says that so this part of for this part, what the commentary, a further objection may be raised. In Shankaracharya's Vivartavada philosophy, Ishvara is also considered to be an illusion and does not refer to the ultimate reality. According to them, ultimate reality is the Nirvishesha Brahma. As said earlier, the Vivartavada holds that there is only one reality called Brahman. Everything else is an illusion. The material world is an illusion. Bhagavan is an illusion. Jivatma is an illusion. The Jiva Goswami responds to this by saying that if this were the case, then the statements of the Gita and the Upanishads would have no authority. Because an illusory person would have, because Gita is uttered by an illusory person. And then there would be no practical difference between the Vedic school and the Buddhist school. Because Buddhist school neither accept the revealed scriptures nor the authority of the speaker. Then that is why Advaitavada is nothing but a covered Buddhism. Although the Advaitavadis, they write commentary on the scriptures, the Upanishads, Gita, Vedanta Sutra, but they say that the Ishvara is born out of illusion. But if we truly see that if this is a true view, then the words spoken by the Ishvara, that itself will be meaningless. And the commentaries written on those words, they are also meaningless. Then it actually comes to the same Buddhistic philosophy only. There will be no difference between the Vedic schools of theology and the Buddhism. That is why it is a covered Buddhism. Mayavadam asakshastram prachannam bauddham uchyate. Prachannam bauddham means covered Buddhism. The Vivartavadi might further argue that even if Ishvara and the scriptures spoken by him are admitted to be real, the essence of their teaching is to inform us about the Brahman. So then they may give another argument. No, Ishvara and the words spoken by him are real, but the purpose of those words is to inform the Nirvishesha Brahman, the qualityless reality. So in case this insight is not made evident, from the verses of the Gita under discussion, then one has to supplement his understanding by recourse to other revealed texts. So in case this insight is not made evident from the verses of the Gita under discussion, then one has to supplement by quoting other revealed texts. But to this, Jiva Goswami responds that in the Gita, Krishna deliberately and clearly states that the knowledge of Brahman and the intuition of identity with Brahman is inferior to the knowledge of Bhagavan and devotion to him. But that is what Arjuna asked. The 12.1. Evam satata yukta ye bhaktastvam paryupasate yechap yaksharam avyuktam tesham ke yoga vittama. Who is superior among the personalists or impersonalists? And Krishna gave a very clear answer. So, nacha tasya satya purushatve api nirvishesha jnanameva moksha sadhanamiti tadiya shastrantarataha samaharyam. So, the Jiva Goswami says that nor can it be argued that even if the personhood of God is admitted to be real, we must still draw on statements from Ishvara's other revealed scriptures wherein it is stated that the knowledge of the unqualified absolute alone is the means to liberation. So, because the intention of the previous chapter of the Gita was to show the inferiority of such knowledge. Because the 12.1, it was very clearly mentioned. Evam sadata yuktaya. Krishna says that Maya veshya mano yemam nitya yukta upasate shraddaya parayopetas teme yukta tamamata. So that is what Jiva Goswami is saying, that Evam satata yuktaye ityadi purvadhyaye, the previous chapter, that is the 12th chapter. Nirvishesha jnanasya heyatvena vivakshitatvat. Heyatvena means the inferiority of the Nirvishesha Jnana is very clearly mentioned. The inferiority of the Nirvishesha Jnana. Tatraivacha, on the same chapter, Krishna said that Yetu Sarvani Karmani Yetu
Mayi
Sarvani
sanyasya status.
Mayi Sanyasya Chetasa Bhavami Nachirat Partha Mrityu Sam, I think Yetu Sarvani Karmani इत्यादि नाम अनन्य भक्तान उद्दिश्य इत्यादि नाम अनन्य भक्तान उद्दिश्य तेषाम अहम समुद्धर्ता मृत्यु संसार सागरात् इत्यनेन तत् ज्ञानापेक्षापि नादृते इति. So Jiva Goswami is giving a precise counter reply by saying that, see, because the intention of the previous chapter of the Gita was to show the inferiority of such knowledge in response to Arjuna's question in the first verse. In that very chapter, Krishna made the following statement in regard to the exclusive devotees, the pure devotees, that I quickly become the liberator. Bhavami nachirat partha maya veshita chetasam. I become the swift deliverer. Prabhupada translates like that. I am the swift deliverer of my pure devotees. I quickly become the liberator of those who offer all actions to me, who are wholly devoted to me, and who worship me, meditating on me through the yoga of exclusive devotion. O Partha, without delay, I lift them up from the ocean of repeated birth and death because of their singular absorption in me. Here, Bhagavan does not regard knowledge of the unqualified absolute as having any relevance for liberation. Very clearly, Krishna is mentioning that the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is inferior knowledge. It's very clearly saying that that is not knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. Krishna is not giving regard for that knowledge for liberation. And then further now, Jiva Goswami gives many quotations. How this is supported in many quotations in the Shastra. So, Taduktam Ekadashe from the 11th canto. Swayam Bhagavata, spoken directly by Bhagavan himself. Yat karma bir yat tapasa jnana vairagyatascha yogena dana dharmena shreyobi ritarairapi sarvam madbhakti yogena madbhakto labatenjasa. 10.11.20.32 Uddhav Gita, where Krishna clearly says that whatever may be attained by performing the path of karmakanda, tapasya, jnana marga, vairagya, yoga, charity, and dharma, or any other means of ultimate welfare, all this can be easily attained by my devotee simply by engaging in bhakti yoga to me. And although my devotee does not desire anything except me, suppose if at any time he should somehow desire heaven or liberation, or residence in my abode, he can very easily attain by my grace. And then another quotation he gives from the Moksha Dharma. Moksha Dharma is a section from the Mahabharata. Can repeat after me. Yavai sadhana sampattihi
या वै साधनसम्पत्तिः
purushartha chatushtaye
पुरुषार्थचतुष्टये
taya vina tadapnoti
तया विना तदाप्नोति
naro narayanashrayah.
नरो नारायणाश्रयः.
So, a person who has taken Narayanashraya, who has taken refuge of Bhagavan Narayana, Purushartha Chatushtaye, he achieves the 4 goals of human life without recourse to the appropriate means employed for attaining them. Taya vina tad apnoti. It means a person who is exclusively taken shelter of Krishna, even without putting a separate endeavor for dharma, artha, kama and moksha, he can attain the results simply by taking shelter of Krishna. The same meaning as the previous Uddhav Gita shloka. And then Jiva Goswami says, Atra tu Purvadhyaya Purvadhyaya Vishlagitam. Purvadhyaya Vishlagitam Tadeva Vrita Kartum Savisheshataya Nirdishya. So here again, in the 13th chapter of the Gita, the specific praises of the personhood of God made in the previous chapter do not go in vain. The 13th chapter also, Atratu Purvadhyaya Vishlagitam Tadeva Vrita Kartum Savisheshataya Nirdishya Iti Kshetram Tatagyanam Nyayam Choktam Samasatah Madbhakta Yetadvigyaya Madbhavaya Upapadyate. Jiva Goswami is quoting another shloka from the 13th chapter, 13.18. So again the 13th chapter of the Gita, so that the specific praises in the previous chapter, Krishna clearly praised the path of worshipping the Bhagavan, the personal Bhagavan. And he clearly spoke about the inferiority of the impersonal Brahman, path of realizing the impersonal Brahman. So the same point is again confirmed in this chapter, 13th chapter. So the specific praises made in the previous chapter do not go in vain. Tadeva avrita kartum. And after, because Krishna says in 13.19, after indicating that knowledge means knowledge of the qualified absolute, Krishna concludes that section by saying that such knowledge is easily attainable. Such knowledge is easily attainable if a person follows the path of devotion. That is what is saying here. Ityantena bhakti samvalitaya stukarartha prayam kritam. So the knowledge of the kshetra and the kshetrajna can be easily obtained when a person follows the path of bhakti yoga. That is why Krishna says, Madbhakta yetad vijnaya madbhavaya upapadyate. So in this way, I have summarily described iti kshetram tata jnanam nyayam chuktam samasataka. I have summarily described kshetra and the jnana and the nyaya. And my devotee can easily attain this knowledge by practicing bhakti yoga. So Atayeva atra, and further he says, Atayeva atra vyashti kshetrajna yeva भक्तत्वेन निर्दिष्टः समष्टिक्षेत्रज्ञस्तु ज्ञेयत्वेन इति क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञ ज्ञानाभ्यां सह ज्ञेयस्य पाठादनुस्मार्य तदनन्तरं च तस्य च जीवत्वम् ईश्वरत्वं च शरं नेति दर्शितम्. So, what is the meaning? So, therefore, in this verse of the Gita, so there are two terms, Vyashti and Samashti. So, Vyashti Kshetrajna refers to the individual Jivatma, Samashti Kshetrajna refers to the totality. So, in this verse of the Gita, which verse? That the verse which is just quoted, that iti kshetram tata jnanam nyayam choktam samasatah madbhakta etad vijnaya madbhavaya upapadyate. In this verse of the Gita, is that verse being quoted? In this verse of the Gita, only the knower of the individual field, Vyashti Kshetrajna, is identified as a devotee. Whereas the knower of the aggregate of all fields, Samashti Kshetrajna, is the substantive reality to be known, Jnaya. The Paramātmā is not mentioned as a devotee. But the knower of the individual field, that Kshetrajna is called as a devotee. So therefore, here after reminding us of this by citing the knowable, together with the knowledge of the field and its knowers, Krishna continues in the following verses by showing that the Jiva nature of the individualized knower and the Ishvara nature of the aggregate knower, Samashti Kshetrajna, are both imperishable. The Jiva Kshetrajna, Vyashti Kshetrajna and the Samashti Kshetrajna both are imperishable. And Vyashti Kshetrajna is called by Krishna by the word Bhakta. Samashti Kshetrajna is not a Bhakta. Samashti Kshetrajna is the Jnaya. Jnayam yattat pravakshyami yajnatva mritamashnote. And both this Vyashti Kshetrajna and Samashti Kshetrajna are imperishable. That means never that Vyashti Kshetrajna becomes one with the Samashti Kshetrajna. Even in the liberation, the individuality continues to exist. So then, Jiva Goswami quotes the 13.21. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakritijan gunan karanam gunasangasya sadasatyoni janmasu. Very famous shloka from the 13th chapter only. So the living entity situated within the material nature, prakritistha, experiences qualities born of that nature, such as happiness and distress. The cause of its birth in sad asad yoni janmashu, in species of greater or lesser evolutionary complexity. Sometimes it takes birth as a devata, sometimes as an animal. The cause of its birth in various species is its karanam gunasangasya, the association of the gunas of the primordial nature, association of the gunas of prakriti. So, iti jivasya prakrtistvam nirdishya swatas tasya prakritatva darshanaya sputamevāksharatvam jnāpitvam. Iti jivasya prakrtistvam nirdishya. By indicating the jiva is situated within the material nature, swatas tasya aprakritatva darshanaya sputameva aksharatvam jnāpitam. From which it logically follows that it is beyond matter, aprakrita. By indicating the jiva is situated within the material nature, from which it logically follows that it is beyond matter. Krishna clearly teaches here the jiva is imperishable. So Jivatma is situated within the material nature. That means it logically implies that actually the jiva is by nature it is aprakrita. But he is situated within the material nature. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manutenartam tatkritam chapi padyat. The jiva is actually transcendental to matter, but is situated within the material nature. So by the Krishna clearly teaches here that the jiva is imperishable. Then by pointing out that the supreme conscious being, Purusha, known as Paramātmā, is superior to the jiva, he shows a fortiori that he is also imperishable. That he mentions in the next shloka, Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha Paramātmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purusha Paraha. The other Purusha residing in the body is known as the witness. Upadrashta, Sakshi. And Upadrashta means is a witness. Anumanta is the sanctioner. Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta is the sustainer. Bhokta, the maintainer. Bharta, Upadrashta Anumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaraha, the almighty regulator. And he is known as the Paramātmā. So therefore, iti jivat paratvena nirdishtasya Paramātmākya purushasya tu kaimutyenaiva tadarshitam. So by the kaimutyen, just like jiva is described as aprakrita, by the kaimutika nyaya, Paramatma is also described as aprakrita, is also described as imperishable. And the should we just maybe another 7-8 minutes will conclude this section. So then Jiva Goswami quotes the 15th chapter verses. Dvavimau purushau loke ksharaschakshara yevacha ksharas sarvani bhutani kutastokshara uchyate uttama purushastvanya Paramatmeti udakritaha yolokatrayamavishe vibharti avyayam ishvaraha. 15th chapter 16 and 17. So Bhagavan very authoritatively declares the imperishability even of the Jivatma by saying there are two kinds of Purushas in this world, the perishable and the imperishable. So all the embodied beings are perishable, whereas the immutable self is called the imperishable. But different from these two, the supreme Purusha called Paramatma, the imperishable regulator enters the three worlds and then sustains them. Ityatra Jivasya api aksharatvam kantoktameva. And then he just explaining the shloka. Tatra upadrashta. So upadrashta, that 13.22. Upadrashta anumantacha. Upadrashta means what? Paramasakshi, the supreme witness. Anumanta means tattat karmanurupaha pravartakaha. One who inspires the living beings in accordance with their past actions. Tattat karmanurupa pravartakaha. Bharta means poshakaha, the sustainer, he who provides nourishment. Bhokta means palayita. Bhokta sometimes it can mean enjoyer, but here it means palayita, the protector. Maheshwaraha sarvadikarta, the superintendent of all. Paramatma sarvantaryami iti vyakyeyam. Paramatma means the indweller of all. This is how the words are to be explained. And then Jiva Goswami says, Uttara padyayostu kutastha ekarupayatu yaha kalavyapi sa kutastaha. this will end. So, Uttarapadyostu Kutastha Ekarupayatu Yaha Kalavyapi Sa Kutastaha It Amarakoshat Avagatartaha. Regarding the next two shlokas quoted, that means is referring to the 15.16 and 17. So regarding the next two verses quoted, the word Kutastha refer to Ekarupayataya, one who does not undergo change through time. Kutastha means Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharaschakshara Evacha Ksharas Sarvani Bhutani Kutastokshara Uchyate. Kutastha means one who does not undergo change through the time. According to Amarakosha. Amarakoshat Avagatar. Asau Shuddha Jiva Eva Uttama Purushastu Anyaha Ityuttarat. This is the pure individual conscious being, Shuddha Jiva. Because in the very next verse it is said, Tadevam Atrapi Kshetra Kshetrajna Sarva Kshetrajna Uktaha. Because in the very next verse it is said that, but different from these two is the Supreme Purusha. Uttama Purushastvanya Paramātmā Yudakrata. So the Kutastha refers to the Shuddha Jivatma. And the Uttama Purusha refers to the Supreme Purusha, called the Paramātmā. And therefore here also in the Gita, Tadeva Matrapi Kshetra Kshetrajna Sarva Kshetrajna Uktaha. Atra Chottarayor Anya Ityanena Binnayoreva Sator Aksharayorna Tattad Rupata Parityagaha Sambhavediti Na Kadachidapi Nirvishesha Rupena Avasthitiriti Darshitam. So, Jiva Goswami is trying to give a parallel how what is mentioned in the 13th chapter Gita, same thing is mentioned by Krishna in the 15th chapter Gita. This is the pure individual conscious being, because in the very next verse it is said, but different from these two is the Supreme Purusha, called the Paramātmā. So here also the field, Kshetra, the knower of the individual field, Kshetrajna, and the knower of the aggregate of all fields, Sarva Kshetrajna, are being indicated as corresponding to the three divisions of Shara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and Uttama Purusha. In the 13th chapter, Krishna used the word Kshetra and the two types of Kshetrajna. In the 15th chapter, he is mentioning the same thing by the terms Shara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, and Uttama Purusha. Shara Purusha refers to the field. Akshara Purusha refers to the individual Jivatma, and Uttama Purusha refers to the Paramātmā. By use of the word different in 15.17, Uttama Purusha Stvanya, Krishna indicates that the later two imperishable beings are indeed different. It is not possible for them to give up their respective natures. By this, it is also shown that they never exist without attributes. So, Uttama Purushastvanya Paramātmā Yudakrataha. By use of the word different, Uttama Purushastu Anya, Krishna indicates that the later two imperishable beings are indeed different. It is not possible for them to give up their respective natures. That means the Jivatma always remains as the Jivatma. Paramātmā always remains as the Paramātmā. So, Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharaschakshara Evacha Ksharas Sarvani Bhutani Kutastokshara Uchyate Uttama Purushastvanya. And then finally he says that Tasmat Madbhavaya Upapadyate 13.18 Iti Yaduktam Tadapi Tat Sarshti Prapti Tatparyakam. And Krishna says Madbhakta etadvijnaya madbhavaya upapadyate. Madbhavaya upapadyate means he attains my nature. By that means he attains the sarshti mukti. He attains the same status as the condition as Bhagavan. He doesn't attain the sayujya mukti. He attains the sarshti mukti. So tadevam dvayor aksharattvena samye api जीवस्य हीनशक्तित्वात् प्रकृत्याविष्टस्य तन् निवृत्त्यर्थमीश्वर एव भजनीयत्वेन ज्ञेय इति भावः. तदेवं द्वयोर अक्षरत्वेन साम्ये अपि. Although both are equal in terms of their imperishability, the Jivatma and the Paramatma, but the Jiva is the one who is captivated by material nature due to its inferior strength. And to come out of this captivation, Ishvara eva bhajaniyattvena jnaya iti bhavaha. Ishvara alone is to be known as the reality meant to be worshipped. So Jivatma and Paramatma both are imperishable, but the Jivatma is because of his inferior nature, Jivatma comes under the control of the Maya potency. In order to come out of that bondage, he has to take, the only way is to take shelter of the Bhagavan. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. Mameva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarantite. So, we concluded this part of this anuccheda. Just thinking how long is the purport left. Okay, short purport is only left. So Arjuna is asking that the 12.1 among the personalists and impersonalists, who is considered to be better realized, who is considered to be superior. So Bhagavan replies that those who having fixed their minds upon me are constantly devoted to me, and who being endowed with the transcendental faith, I regard them as the best of the yogis. So Krishna also says that the meditation on the qualityless Brahman is troublesome. Klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta sakta chetasa. And Krishna says that I personally help my devotees from the ocean of suffering. Tesham aham samuddarta mrityu samsara sagara. And later, of course, Krishna says that he is the source of the Brahman feature. That Brahmano ki pratishtaham amrutasya avyayasya cha. This suggests that Brahman is nothing but an unqualified aspect of Bhagavan, as argued by Jiva Goswami in the Bhagavad Sandarbha. So from all these statements, it is clear that the essential intent of the scripture is to establish Bhagavan as the ultimate reality, not Brahman. So Jiva Goswami thus shows on the authority of the Bhagavad Gita that there are two kshetrajñas, the individual living being and the Paramātmā. Both are distinct and can never be absolutely one. They can never be absolutely one. Uttama Purushastu Anyaha Paramātmēt Yudagrata. So wherever the oneness is indicated, it is only because the Jiva is an integrated part of the Paramātmā. And therefore it shares the same identity of nature with it. But they are never identical in all respects, as stated in the Gita. Iti kshetram tata jnanam Nyayam choktam samasatah madbhakta etadvijnaya madbhavaya upapadyate. So according to this verse, the individuated knower is certainly not the supreme reality to be known. That the supreme reality is the Paramatma. So the Advaitavada scholars interpret the statement madbhavaya upapadyate. They interpret the statement to say that Jiva becomes one with the Supreme. But this contradicts numerous other statements, such as, but there is another Supreme Purusha, Uttama Purushastu Anyaha, who is called Paramātmā. Paramātmā ityudakritaha. So therefore, Jiva Goswami says that in this shloka, Madbhavaya upapadyate, we cannot take the meaning as merging into the Brahman in all, and becoming one with him. Rather, we have to interpret that Madbhavaya upapadya means the devotee attains the Sarshti Mukti. He gets the same rank or status or power as Bhagavan. This is also supported by the Chandogya Upanishad, which states that the liberated soul attains the 8 qualities of Bhagavan. Apaghata Papma, Vijara, Vimrityu, Vishoka. So therefore, it is perfectly clear that the individual jiva is ever distinct from and subservient to the Supreme Person or Purushottama. And he alone is the substantive reality to be known, Nyeya. And the means for the self-revelation of the truth is unconditional devotion. And after being endowed with this realization, the jiva becomes like him and yet remains distinct and subservient to him. He becomes like him means he gets the same nature as the Bhagavan, but at the same time remains subservient to him and distinct from him. This is the second part of the first anuccheda. Is there any questions we can?
So Prabhuji, 15.16 and 17, they are mentioning 3. One is Paddha, one is Mukta, and then Uttama, which is Supreme, right? They're connected like this, right?
Kshara Purusha, Akshara Purusha, Uttama Purusha. The Kshara Purusha refers to the Kshetra. Akshara Purusha refers to the Jivatma. Uttama Purusha refers to the Paramātmā. So in that way, those 2 shlokas correspond to the same thing which Krishna mentioned in the 13th chapter. Because some other acharyas give a slight different meaning also, but this meaning is taken by Jiva Goswami.
Prabhuji, there is no doubt, but the details are very elaborate. So that is what the understanding becomes. Of course, no doubt in understanding, but the understanding and keeping the stack of the details, that becomes a very cumbersome. Of course, once you go through one after another the details, it becomes more and more clear only. There's no doubt in that. But to keep the tag of that details are very important here. Very rather one has to put a lot of effort to keep the tag.
Yeah, see, there are different ways to study. What we see in this Jiva Goswami's writing, he is trying to take every possible opposition, every possible Purva Paksha. Some Nirishwara Sankhya, they give certain opinion. Vivartavada, they give certain opinion. Ishwara is born out of illusion. So he's trying to take every possible Purva Paksha and then he's trying to address that, how that is wrong. And then when we address that, they give another objection. Okay, even if the Ishvara is real, but the words of the Ishvara, they only point out the Nirvishesha Brahman. And then again, Jiva Goswami is trying to address that. So one thing, even if we don't remember those details of the arguments, if somebody can follow them, it is well and good. But at least what we can do is that in every anuccheda, what is the main shloka quoted? What is the message of the shloka? That much we can understand. For example, in the 1.1 anuccheda, what is the main shloka quoted? That is the Jada speaking to Rahuguna, the two shlokas, 5.11,
difference
5.12
between
and
Atma and Paramātmā.
First shloka about the Atma, second shloka about the Paramatma. Just understand the meaning of the shloka, because there is a main shloka that is the main theme of that anuccheda. And then just understand that shloka and what is the main point which Jiva Goswami is driving from that. On that shloka, then Jiva Goswami tries to address some Purva Paksha and then addresses that, gives a counter reply to that. Even if you don't remember this, even if you are sometimes not able to follow it minutely, but at least understand the main shloka. In the 1.2 Anucheda, the main shloka quoted is Bhagavad Gita 13.1 and 2, which talks about the clearly two types of Kshetrajna. And then he is also confirming that with the 15.16 and 17. There's the main shloka Bhagavad Gita, but then as a confirmation, he is also quoting 15.16 and 17. But there is a particular, and then in between there is a particular thought flow in the 13.1 and 2, in explaining that he's trying to address each of the Purva Paksha opinion, which the Advaitavadis give or Nirishwara Sankhya-vadis give. So he's giving a counter reply to that based on that shloka or based on other shlokas. But even if we don't become tedious to understand those reasoning, but at least focus on the main shloka quoted in each anucheda. Correct.
Yeah, Prabhu. Excellent, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So next class we will begin the 1.3, the third part of the first anucheda. The first anucheda is little long. Will later. Anucheda we'll stop here. Rantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.